Welcome back to OT Sports. Today we got our March Madness tournament predictions, the time that everyone's been waiting for, the best tournament of the year, the best postseason of the year, my favorite time of year. The past couple weeks of videos have been leading up to this. We predicted all 32 conference tournaments. Along with college basketball, we do college football, NFL, NBA, and MLB. So if you're new around here, make sure you go down there, subscribe, turn on the noties, like the video if you enjoy. Comment down below your Final Four. I would love to hear it and your opinion on my picks. But with all that being said, let's get in to this prediction video because this is going to be a long one. I can already tell. So starting off, the 1 versus 16 seed game. UConn taking on Stetson now. Stetson had a very nice run in the Atlantic Sun Tournament. I will give them their props. They made it here for the first time in, I believe, program history, or maybe the first time in like 50 years, but it's either the first time ever or it's been a while. But I am going to go with UConn. I don't think we will see a 16 seed take down a 1 seed this year again. I'm going to go ahead and take the Huskies here. I'm not too worried about that one. Moving on. 8-seeded FAU taking on 9-seeded Northwestern. Now this one, I've been back and forth on. This really made me think. John L. Davis taking on Boo Buie. This is going to be a prime matchup here. Those two guards are going to go back and forth. I can already tell you. I mean, like I said, those two guards are very good, but that's not the whole story for either of these teams. FAU made the Final Four last year, and they have a very experienced team. Returned a lot of guys. Golden at center, he's very good. They got Elijah Martin. Nicholas Boyd. They have a lot of guys who can really score, and their offense is very solid, top 20 in the country, I believe. But the defense does lag behind a little bit. Northwestern is the more well-rounded team here. But the reason I'm going with FAU is Northwestern is a team that actually leans heavily offensively. And like I said, they are very well-rounded, but they do lean very offensively. They don't necessarily play fast. FAU does like to play fast, but I am going to go with FAU. They have the tournament experience from last year, so I'll go ahead and take them to move on. San Diego State taking on UAB. UAB won the American as a, I believe, 4 seed, so they had a nice run, but they're taking on the Aztecs here. I don't know if they can win this one. The Aztecs made it to the Mountain West Conference Championship game. I've been really high on them all year. Jaden Ledee is a star. He's probably going to be an All-American. UAB, I just feel like they're out of gas here. And, with them waiting this long after going on a hot streak, I guess you could say, it might come back to bite them. So I am going to go with San Diego State. It's the safer pick here. And I think this is probably the least likely 5/12 or 12/5 upset. I'm going to go ahead and take the Aztecs. Auburn taking on Yale. Now, Auburn is a team top 4 in KenPom. They're way up there, but the thing with them, they don't tend to beat teams better than them. Now, they take care of the bad teams, so I'm going to go ahead and take them to beat Yale. I'm not saying Yale's a bad team, but, Yale beating Brown in the Ivy League Championship off a buzzer beater. They didn't look overly impressive, and Auburn is a tough matchup because Auburn is a team that will not get upset in this tournament. I think Auburn can take care of business. I think they'll handle Yale. 6-seeded BYU taking on 11-seeded Duquesne. Now, this matchup is very interesting because I think BYU has what it takes to go far in this tournament. Duquesne does worry me, though, for BYU's sake. Duquesne is a team that they won the A-10 after being a 6 seed. I was nowhere near close to predicting that. And they have a top 30 defense in the country. Duquesne's scary. Day Grant is a guy to know. He is their best player. He will get them a bucket whenever they need it. The Dukes, their coach is going to be gone after this season, but this season's a great story for them. Jimmy Clark as well. They got 2 studs right there. I'm going to go with BYU just because they've been more consistent throughout, this whole season. Duquesne kind of just came out of nowhere. And kind of similar with the UAB thing, I feel like this might hurt them, waiting this long. waiting these couple days. I don't know. I'm gonna go with BYU. They're a little more well rested. I think Duquesne kind of runs out of gas. Illinois taking on Morehead State. Now this is actually the only 14-3 upset I could see happening. You know, you got Colgate, Baylor, Akron, Creighton, Oakland, Kentucky, maybe. But this one, I feel like there's a chance. I'm not going to take it. I'm going to go with the Illini. They just won the Big Ten. They've been playing really good. Terrence Shannon, Damask, Coleman Hawkins, all of them. But Morehead State ran through the Ohio Valley. I just worry because they haven't played in a long time. It's probably about a week from now. So, I mean, I'm going to go ahead and take the Illini. They've been playing really good basketball recently. 7-seeded Washington State taking on 10-seeded Drake. So this is a game where I actually really like Drake here. I do worry with this upset, though. A lot of people are taking Drake. Maybe Washington State is getting overlooked a little bit. They're the tallest team in Division I, which I think might pose some matchup problems. But they do say guard play is the most important thing in March Madness. Drake has that. Tucker DeVries averaging 22 points per game. Aiden Wright, he is a phenomenal player. Kevin Overton, they got a lot of studs on this team. And no, this is no disrespect to Washington State, but there's going to be some upsets. I really like this one. Washington State didn't overly impress in the Pac-12 tournament. I haven't been super high on them all year. Isaac Jones is a pretty good player for them. But Washington State not too high in KenPom, 65th in offense, 27th in defense. I feel like Drake, I feel like their offense really won't have much problems with Washington State's defense, just because of their dominant guards and the fact that Washington State, I don't think they have the guard play to keep up with Drake. So I'm going to go ahead and take them. They shoot the three really well. Iowa State taking on South Dakota State. Iowa State just ran through the Big 12. Give me them. I don't think the Jackrabbits cause any problems here, if I'm being honest. Moving on. North Carolina taking on Wagner. Now, this was a first four game. It did play out by the time recording this. But with all that being said, UNC is the pick here. I don't think we will see a 16-seed upset this season. And, even if we do, that you're not going to pick them realistically. So give me UNC. Mississippi State taking on Michigan State. Now, this is actually a little bit more close than I think people are giving it credit for. Mississippi State 60th in offense, 20th in defense. It's going to be a defensive battle. The thing is, Mississippi State and Michigan State both like to play slow, but Michigan State has the better offense in this matchup and the much better defense. I just think they're more well-rounded. They have a guy who can go get you a bucket. Now, Tolu Smith does worry me in this matchup. He is a really good player for them, and I feel like that might be a matchup issue for Michigan State. Tolu Smith, Josh Hubbard, he's a guy who can, but besides those two, I really don't see anyone else giving Michigan State problems. I'm going to trust Tom Izzo in March. I think he gets it done, but this one, I feel like people are overlooking this a little bit. I'm going to go with the Spartans, but, don't sleep on that game. Don't sleep on the Bulldogs. But I am going to go with Michigan State. St. Mary's taking on Grand Canyon. Now, Grand Canyon is one of those 12 seeds that I've been very high on this season. They're 27-4, I believe. Very good team. This Grand Canyon Antelopes team. It sucks that St. Mary's is always a 5 seed, I feel like, because they're just a matchup nightmare for most teams. So with that being said, I'm going to go with St. Mary's. I know I've been a little bit chalky. I have one upset here, and then I guess a 9/8, but there will be some upsets, I promise. But it just looks a little chalky right now, but we're getting there. St. Mary's, though, too well-rounded defensively, and offensively they're very solid, too, 62nd. Grand Canyon's going to look to push the pace a little bit. I just don't think St. Mary's lets them, so I'm going to go with the Gales. This one is in Spokane, Washington, so I guess kind of close for both these teams, but St. Mary's definitely with an advantage there. Alabama, Charleston, complete opposite of St. Mary's. Both these teams like to play fast pace. The problem is Charleston. I don't think they can keep up with Bama. Mark Sears is just too good, in my opinion. Charleston has a very good offense, and like I said, they like to push the tempo, but Alabama, I think, just does it way better. Mark Sears, Aaron Estrada, Grant Nelson. They got a lot of guys. I don't see Charleston being able to outscore Alabama in any world. Charleston 57th in offense. Yeah, I mean that's their strong suit, their tempo and offense, but they're behind Alabama by a pretty solid amount in both offense and adjusted tempo. So I'm going to go ahead and take the Crimson Tide. But that's just a very polarizing second round matchup there. Clemson, New Mexico. I'm going with the Lobos. Clemson, not high on them at all. They have been struggling recently. New Mexico's 11 spots higher than them overall in KenPom. They have a little bit of a worse offense, but not by much, by about 15. But the defense here is the difference. New Mexico, 40 spots higher in defense. And they're one of those teams that they play very good defense, but offensively they like to push the pace. They like to create turnovers, and I worry for Clemson. Besides P.J. Hall, I don't know who they go to. And you got to have good guard play. I don't think Clemson has that. New Mexico definitely has good guard play. Jalen House, just to name a guy, he's amazing. I'm blanking on the other names, but Jamal Mashburn. He's one of the guys. Donovan Dent. I mean, all three of those. They got JT Toppin, too. He's not a guard, but, New Mexico, I feel like, is poised to make this. Clemson likes to turn it over a little bit. New Mexico really likes to take advantage. I just feel like this is a matchup made in heaven for New Mexico. They're hot, too. Clemson not playing good. I mean, all the signs are pointing New Mexico. I'm going to go ahead and pull the trigger on this one. Baylor, Colgate. I'll go ahead and take Baylor. I'm not going to sit here and overthink this one. Colgate makes the tournament quite a bit, but they don't tend to end up winning. So I'll go ahead and take Baylor. I'm not really worried about this upset happening. Dayton, Nevada. This is one that made me think a little bit. I was back and forth on this one. Dayton 3 spots higher in KenPom overall. They're right close to each other, neck and neck. Now Nevada, besides their recent loss, they enter this game on quite a bit of a win streak. They've won, I believe, like 7 of their last 9, something like that. Nevada's been very solid recently, and they have the guard play to do it. Jared Lucas, Keenan Blackshear. I mean, the Wolfpack are a very scary team. I picked them to win the Mountain West. Now, obviously, they lost first round, but Dayton lost first round too, and they've lost 4 of their last 9. I think the difference here is Dayton's 3-point shooting. I don't know if Nevada hasn't. I mean, they do kind of have an answer for it with their guards, but Dayton, I mean, Deron Holmes, I just don't see who's stopping him on Nevada. That's really the issue. And Deron Holmes, averaging 20 points per game, 8 rebounds. He is an amazing player. Dayton's 2 best players are actually, not guards, but they're experienced. They shoot the 3 ball very well. They're one of the best 3-point shooting teams. They shoot as a team 40.2%. That is ridiculous. I don't think Nevada can keep up with their offense. Nevada is more well-rounded here, but I don't know if Nevada keeps up with their offense. Dayton's just a very efficient offense. They don't play fast whatsoever. They just make their shots. I'm going to go ahead and take the Flyers. I'm not super high on Dayton, but I like this matchup for them. I'll go ahead and take the Wildcats over Long Beach State. Not going to think too much about that one. Moving on over to the South. Houston over Longwood. Going to go ahead and take that. Not going to think about it too much. Nebraska A&M. This is one where I do want to think about, it's tough. It's tough, these two teams. It could go either way. When the bracket first came out, I thought Nebraska and then Nebraska over Houston. I'm high on the Cornhuskers, but this matchup, I don't like it for them. I think Texas A&M can pull us off. Wade Taylor, Texas A&M tends to do good against good teams this year. They've lost against bad teams, but Nebraska's not a bad team. Nebraska not great on the neutral site or away from home this year. They only have one loss at home. The rest of them have all come on the road or on a neutral site. A&M's proved that they can win on neutral sites. Nebraska, very solid team, 36th in offense, 30th in defense, but I mean, I just can't trust them away from home. They've proved to me all year that that's their mojo, and I'm gonna go ahead and take A&M over them. I trust them a little bit more. But Nebraska definitely could win this one. This one's 50-50. Another 50-50 game. Wisconsin taking on James Madison. Now this one really made me think. AJ Storr and the Badgers have been playing really good recently. Before the Big Ten tournament, I was not high on them at all, but they really made a resurgence. They made it all the way to the championship game. They beat Purdue while in doing so. They beat Northwestern. Stephen Kroll has been doing really good. Tyler Wall, Chucky Hepburn. They have a lot of guys. They have the guards to do it. But I'm telling you right now, this James Madison team, they take care of the ball and they force a lot of turnovers. The Big Ten tends to underperform in the tournament. Wisconsin, one of those teams just inside the top 50 in defense. They slow the game down a lot, but I feel like James Madison has the guards to do it. They're 31-3. They play at a pretty nice tempo, 56th in offense. Wisconsin's going to try and slow this one down. I don't think they will be able to. I think James Madison's offense is about on par with Wisconsin's defense. And I think Wisconsin's guards, they're a veteran team, but I feel like James Madison gets them here. James Madison's a very good team, very good 12 seed. I'm going to go ahead and take them over Wisconsin. Duke, Vermont. Vermont has a very good defense, but I'm going to go with Duke. They're actually a more experienced team. We don't typically see that from Duke, but I'll go ahead and take them over the Catamounts. Congrats on making it here. I don't think you beat Duke. Texas Tech and NC State. This is one where I had no idea what to do. NC State just won the ACC, winning 5 games in 5 days. They get a little bit of a breather. Texas Tech beat BYU, who I picked to win the Big 12, but then they got their they didn't look good against Houston. That's all I'm going to say. They lost by like 20. It wasn't pretty. This one is very tough. Texas Tech 23rd in offense, 45th in defense. NC State not as good there. 47th in offense, 86th in defense. Both these teams lean offensive. But Texas Tech's just a better overall team, in my opinion. A lot of people are taking NC State here, and I can see why. They have some really good players, and they've been hot recently. I respect the Wolfpack. I think they can definitely make some noise. I feel like they could get as far as the Elite Eight. Like this bottom 4, matchups, Texas Tech all the way down to Marquette. I feel like you could go with Texas Tech, you could go with NC State, you could go with Kentucky, Florida, Colorado, or Boise, Marquette. I feel like you could go with any of those teams to come out of this. This little region right here is ridiculous. DJ Horn and DJ Burns definitely have what it takes to beat Texas Tech, but I like them. Pop Isaacs, they have really good guard play. I'll go ahead and take them. I just feel like their defense is the difference maker here. Kentucky will beat Oakland. I've seen a lot of people clamoring for Oakland. This is not a good matchup. They're not going to be able to keep up with the Wildcats. Florida taking on Boise or Colorado. Now, I think Colorado wins this one. Colorado's, in my opinion, a lot better of a team than Boise State is. They got, really good players, veteran players. They're very high up in KenPom. Colorado, KJ Simpson, Tristan Da Silva, Eddie Lampkin. Just to name a few. They got Cody Williams, too. I really like this Colorado team. I think they're very well-rounded offensively and defensively, and more just like by position. I mean, they just have a very nice starting 5, in my opinion, and they have some good bench players, too. I think they go ahead and beat Boise, and there's always a first 4 team that wins their first game at least. I'm going to go ahead and say that Colorado beats Florida. Florida, very heavily offensive. They just beat Alabama and then A&M, but then lost to Auburn. Honestly, I wasn't too impressed just because, I mean, Alabama I'm not super high on, A&M 7 seed, and then Auburn 4 seed, they lost by 20. Like, if they played Kentucky in there and won, maybe, but I just don't see it for Florida. I like their guards and everything, but they're just defensively, they're not good. Colorado's more well-rounded. I'm going to go ahead and take them. Marquette, Western Kentucky. We don't know if Tyler Kolek's playing. I'm assuming he is. But this one is so interesting. It's very interesting. Marquette, very well-rounded team this year. 22nd in offense, 19th in defense. They like to play fast. They do. That's how they score a lot of their points. They play fast. That's just how Marquette does it this year. Iguodaro, like I mentioned earlier, Tyler Kolek, I believe he is playing. Cam Jones. I mean, they're playing it against Western Kentucky, the fastest paced team in all of Division One. And it's not like their offense carries them. They're actually more defensive focused. I feel like this is one I'm not gonna do it because I don't pick 15 seed. I don't pick 16, 15, or 14 seeds ever. That's just how I do it. But this is one I'm really close to doing it. I really am. I'm going with Marquette. I'm gonna trust them, but interesting. Purdue will win. They're not going to have this happen again. Next game, Utah State TCU. So this is one, honestly, a lot of people are saying coin flip, but I'm pretty certainly going to go with Utah State. I'm not high on them at all, but they really got underseeded. I was expecting 5, probably 6, at least 7. They get an 8, and they play TCU, who is actually a little bit higher than them in KenPom overall. They're 44th in offense, 31st in defense. But I think Utah State's offense will be able to keep up with them. They like to speed up the game. What's the guy's name on Utah State? It's like Great Osabor or something like that. He is really good. I don't see TCU having any way of stopping that. And around him, they have plenty of guards who can shoot pretty well. I like this Utah State team. I think they could be sneaky. Watch out for the Aggies. I think they'll beat TCU pretty easily. Gonzaga McNeese. This is one everyone's going with McNeese, right? I mean, everyone is. McNeese takes care of the ball. They don't turn the ball over, and they force a lot of turnovers. I like that. I would like that against many teams, but not against Gonzaga. Gonzaga, veteran team. They're coached well. They take care of the ball. And McNeese relies heavily on creating turnovers. I don't think they'll be able to. I think Gonzaga, I think they'll be able to win this one. I really do. McNeese's defense is solid, but Gonzaga top 10 in offense, top 50 in defense. McNeese just barely top 50 offense, but they don't play fast, really. I don't think they'll be able to keep up with Gonzaga scoring-wise, honestly. And I think Gonzaga takes care of the ball. I trust Mark Few in March Madness. Not to win it all, but he always gets far. So I'm going with the Zags. I think, a lot of people are going to go with this one. I don't see it here. Kansas and Samford. Now, I know a lot of people are on Samford, and I'm one of those people. And I'm going to tell you why. Kansas, I've just received the news, Kevin McCullough out for the tournament. They already struggle to play 6 people a game. Now without their best player, they're going to struggle even more. Hunter Dickinson is a problem for Samford, but I'm telling you, they play like 10 guys. They press. They shoot the 3 really well. This is just a really good team. I mean, this is like a match made in heaven. I think they wear out Kansas. Hunter Dickinson, I feel like he gets tired here. I mean, 10 guys. I mean, they're always getting fresh guys, fresh bodies in. They're going to press. Like I said, all of them shoot the 3 well. Kansas without their best player, I just feel like this is a perfect upset to go with. I'm going to go ahead and take Samford. South Carolina, Oregon. Another one I feel like is a perfect upset in Valley Dante. I don't know who guards him for South Carolina. Oregon has guards around him too. They just won the Pac-12. They took down, UCLA, Arizona, and Colorado on the way. All very solid teams. South Carolina is not a team I'm high on at all. They get a 6 seed. I don't necessarily think they're 6 seed worthy. The resume probably. They're one of the slowest teams in Division One, barely top 50 in offense, just outside the top 50 in defense. Oregon right behind them. Top 50 in offense. They're going to try and speed the game up. South Carolina ranked second in luck rating. I don't like that. I'll go ahead and take the Ducks. I think they get it done and move on to the round of 32. Oh man, this video is already 26 minutes. Wow, okay. Creighton and Akron, we'll go ahead and take Creighton. We're going to try and speed this up. I'll go ahead and take Tennessee here. And then Virginia, Colorado State. I'll go ahead and take Colorado State. They're a little more well-rounded. But Texas, I think, gets them. I don't think both first 4 teams will win. It's usually only one. So I'll go ahead and take Max Abmas, Dylan DeSue, Tyrese Hunter, all of them. I'll take Texas to move on. But now back up to the top. UConn, FAU. This is one I thought about. FAU, good offensively. They have the experience, but do they have enough to beat UConn in, I believe this group is in Brooklyn. I don't think so. UConn will win this one. San Diego State, Auburn. Like I said earlier, Auburn is a team I don't think will get upset. They take care of business against teams worse than them. San Diego State, I've been high on them all year. But Auburn, top 10 in offense and defense. You can't go against that. San Diego State is going to try and slow this one down, but Auburn, I feel like we've seen them play in slow-paced games. I feel like they're just forced to play high tempo just because they're in the SEC. But I feel like they can really hold their own. Janai Broome, honestly, I feel like they might do better in slow-paced games than high-paced, if I'm being honest with you. I'll go ahead and take them. Jane Ledee is a problem here, but, again, who's going to guard Janai Broome for San Diego State? I don't see a world where that happens. I'll go ahead and take them. Baker Mazzara, Jones at guard for Auburn. Aiden Holloway, they have a really good team. I'm going to go ahead and take the Tigers to move on to the Sweet 16. Now looking at BYU, Illinois. I'm going with BYU. I'm doing it. I'm taking BYU to make a run again. I did it in the Big 12. I had them win the Big 12. I pulled the trigger on that upset, but can they do it here against Illinois? High-powered offense. BYU is very offensive focused. I like this matchup. I really do. Terrence Shannon is a problem, but both these teams like to play fast. BYU has the offense to keep up with Illinois. They're ranked 11th, Illinois 3rd, but the defense top 50, Illinois 93rd. I really do like BYU in this game. Drake, Iowa State, and Iowa battle here in the second round. I'm going with Iowa State. I'm not going to... I want to do it, but I don't think Iowa State loses here. And there's always a 2 seed that loses second round, just like how there's always a 1 seed loses second round. But I don't think it's this team. Iowa State has been playing amazing recently. They're tied for number 1 in defense with Houston right now. And they got just outside the top 50 in offense. Tamin Lipsey is amazing. They just won the Big 12. They just ran through the Big 12. I'm going to go with them. I think they carry this momentum this little 2-game stretch. But this might hurt them, having to wait a week to play. They're peaking right now. Can they keep it going? I think they beat Drake. But here, we'll see. UNC Michigan State. The Blue Bloods take on each other. UNC ranked 9th in KenPom. Michigan State close by, 19th. Both these teams are more defensive focused. UNC ranks 6th in defense compared to Michigan State's 8th. RJ Davis, very good player. Armando Bacot, Harrison Ingram, Cormac Ryan. UNC's loaded. But something about Tom Izzo and March. Something's telling me they got this one. Tyson Walker, AJ Hogard, all of them. I think they do it. I think this matchup actually favors them a lot. I feel like both these teams might, Michigan State. I mean, okay, these teams are weird because both these teams have elite defenses, but UNC likes to play fast. Michigan State, one of the slowest teams in all of Division One. I think Michigan State has the defense capable enough to slow UNC down and really get them uncomfortable and not playing how they'd like to play. So I'm going to go ahead and take the Spartans. I actually really like this matchup for Michigan State. And, Tom Izzo and March, obviously. They have the guards to do it, too, to compete with R.J. Davis. I'm going with Michigan State. There's always a 1 seed that loses second round. St. Mary's, Alabama. High-powered offense versus high-powered defense. I'm going with St. Mary's. They're more well-rounded. They definitely lean defensive, but they're one of the slowest teams in all Division One. I think if you want to beat St. Mary's, you have to play like they want you to play, which is weird because I don't think you're going to beat St. Mary's going in guns blazing, high offensive powered. I feel like you have to just grind it out with them. I feel like you have to be good defensively to beat them. And Alabama is nowhere near that. I think Mark Sears has a good game, but Aiden Mahaney, St. Mary's, they're a tough out. Every year in March, I think they get them. I really like this matchup. They're going to force Alabama to play, not how they want to. I'm going with St. Mary's to the Sweet 16. New Mexico, Baylor. This is one. Baylor, another fast-paced team. They're one of the best offenses in all of college basketball. 63rd in defense, very good too. But New Mexico, more well-rounded. They have a top 25 defense along with a top 10 paced offense against Baylor. I think they'll be able to get stops against Baylor, force turnovers. Baylor, not great with turnovers this year. I'm telling you, New Mexico does it. The Lobos. They just won the Mountain West. I think they carry this momentum forward. So this region is just ridiculous, but I think this is the weakest region, so I feel like this is actually realistic. I got a 9-5, and then I got an 11 down here. Who do I have here? I'm going to get a little... I can't go all upsets. Dayton has the tools to do it. Duran Holmes is good, but who's stopping Omar Ballo? That's my question. Who's stopping Caleb Love here? Going with Arizona. Their metrics the metrics really like them. They have been inconsistent. I haven't been high on them all year. But 8th in offense, 12th in defense. That's very solid. They're one of the more fast-paced teams, which does concern me. But they've played a very tough schedule. They've hung with the best of the best in the country. I'm going with Arizona here. To move on to the Sweet 16. Houston, Texas A&M. This is one I did think about. Wade Taylor and the Aggies could do it, but Houston's defense is just too consistent. Jamal Shedd is a dog. I don't see a world where any of these teams can beat the Aggies. So give me Houston. I don't know what I think I just messed up what I was trying to say, but I'm taking Houston to the Sweet 16. I don't trust A&M to get past their defense, and I like that Houston actually isn't peaking right now. We'll get to that in a little bit. James Madison taking on Duke. I'm going with Duke. I would love to see James Madison, but Duke, I actually do kind of like them in this tournament. Top 25 in defense, top 10 in offense. They don't play overly too fast-paced. They have a pretty solid strength of schedule, and they're actually pretty veteran this year. I'm going with Duke to the Sweet 16. Texas Tech, Kentucky. This is a game that tripped me up for a while. This is probably the hardest one to pick. I'm going with Kentucky, and I don't feel great about it, but I'm worried about this year. NC State, I feel like, could win. If they win, I think Kentucky would beat them. I know Oh, you guys were mad that I didn't have Texas Tech going far in the Big 12 tournament. Texas Tech, I had them in the Elite Eight. I'm telling you right now, I had them in the Elite Eight, and then I switched it last minute to Kentucky. I just don't see a world. I mean, Pop Isaacs is very good, but they've dealt with a lot of injuries this season. They're 23rd in offense, 45th in defense. They're more well-rounded than Kentucky. They should win this. But I'm going with Kentucky. There's something about this team. I just feel like they have what it takes to succeed in March Madness. Reed Shepherd, Rob Dillingham. I'm forgetting their best player for some reason. But, Kentucky, I mean, they have just a bunch of guys that can just give you over 20 points randomly. I don't think Texas Tech has that. Antonio Reeves, he's averaging 20 points per game. I mean, Trey Mitchell, DJ Wagner. This team is just loaded. I'm going with Kentucky. Colorado taking on Marquette. And I said this a little earlier. I think Marquette might lose this one. So going up against a team like Colorado who's very well-rounded, we don't know if Tyler Kolek's going to be 100%. Going with the plan. I'm going to do it. I'm going to trust Colorado. There's always a first four team that makes it far. I think this year's is Colorado. Moving down here, Purdue, Utah State. I think Utah State could give Purdue a run for their money, but I think Purdue gets out of the first weekend. I think they're locked in this year. I don't think they lose that early. Great Osabor is good, but Utah State I'm not too high on. Besides him, I don't like them. I trust Purdue's guards way more than I do Utah State's, and I'm going to go with Purdue. To the Sweet 16, Gonzaga, Samford. This is one I thought about, but Gonzaga's a lot deeper than Kansas. Do I think Samford gets to the Sweet 16? The crazy thing is, if Samford gets here, I think they could beat Purdue. I really do. I feel like they can they rely on a lot of turnovers. I don't think Gonzaga turns the ball over very much. I just don't. They're coached very well. Going with Mark Few and the Bulldogs. Or not the Bulldogs, the Zags. Oregon, Creighton, both these teams coaching-wise tend to do very well in March Madness. So this one tripped me up a lot. And I am worried about this one because one of these teams, I'm not going to say it, but this matchup does worry me a lot. I'm going to end up going with Creighton. They're the better overall team in my eyes. 12th in offense, 24th in defense. Oregon and Folly Dante is very good, but I feel like Kalkbrenner can deal with him. And Trey Alexander and Baylor Shireman, I don't think anyone on Oregon can keep up with those two. So I'm going with Creighton to make the Sweet 16. I had them in the Elite Eight last year, and they made it there. So give me Creighton to the Sweet 16. Trust the Blue Jays. Texas, Tennessee, Dalton Connect versus Max Abmas. This matchup will feed families. But I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to take Texas. I already had my 2 seed lost early in Marquette. I had my 1 seed that lost early. I had the 3 seed that lost. I really like how this is setting up here. I got 2 1 versus 4s here, which I don't know about that. I don't really have a double-digit seed making a run. I guess I have New Mexico and Colorado, so I guess not. James Madison could do it here. I don't see it, though. So this is my Sweet 16. Moving on, UConn Auburn. I've seen some people taking Auburn in this one, and I'm going to tell you why they won't win. UConn will win. If you're just basing it off KenPom, which a lot of people do, there's kind of like levels to this. There's people who just don't watch college basketball all year. And then they just go and pick whoever they want, right? There's people who do watch it. They don't look into the stats. They just go off eye test. There's people that do that. There's the next tier people that really dig into the stats, but they only look at KenPom, which it's great, but that can't be the only thing you look at. You got to look at the matchups. Auburn has not been good against good teams all season. UConn is the number 1 overall seed for a reason. They're a very good team. I don't think Auburn beats them. If you're looking at KenPom, you're like, this is where UConn loses. Auburn's 4th in KenPom. They're the only team top 10 in offense and defense besides, they're the only team top 10 in offense and defense. Arizona and UConn are very close, but yeah, I mean, so I've seen people do it. I'm going with the Huskies though. I believe this little Sweet 16 Elite Eight, I believe, is in Boston, so that's a huge advantage. I mean, they basically get a home games all the way to the Final Four. I'm going with the UConn. I don't see a world where they lose that. BYU Iowa State. I talked about this a little bit, but peaking at the right time, and I feel like Iowa State will have won so many games in a row. At this point, it would be like 6, I think, 6 games in a row. They'll just have a week off randomly in between that stretch. I don't think that sits well for them. BYU, very good offensively. I don't think Iowa State will be able to score. Now they'll be able to hold them. They'll be able to hold them, but I haven't mentioned this yet. BYU is a very sneaky 3-point shooting team. They can get hot. They can do it. They can do it. You know, if you want to beat one of these high-powered defenses, you got to be able to shoot the three. BYU could do that. They're a very veteran team. I picked them far in the Big 12 tournament. I actually picked them to win. They lost to Texas Tech, but I have them going far again. This could come back to bite me, but I don't know. I like BYU here to the Elite Eight. Michigan State, St. Mary's. I said this earlier. I think you have to play to St. Mary's. You're going to have to beat them at their own game. I think Michigan State's able to do that. I'm taking Tom Izzo. They're coached very well. I think they're coached a lot better than St. Mary's is. Tom Izzo is one of the greatest coaches of all time. And, Tyson Walker. When it comes down to it, who's going to stop him on St. Mary's? Aiden Mahaney is very good, but with this, a lot of time to prepare for this game, Tom Izzo, I just trust more. Going with the Michigan State Spartans to the Elite Eight, the 9 seed. Will I go with the other Cinderella team? I will not. I'm taking Arizona, but New Mexico can get there. I've seen some people in New Mexico Final Four. I wouldn't call it crazy. 41st in offense, 23rd in defense, 8th in tempo. It's very good. But Arizona's one of those teams that can compete. 8th in offense, about 30 spots higher. They're 10 spots higher in defense, and they're just as fast-paced as New Mexico. This will be a great game, but I think when it comes down to it, I think Omar Ballo will be the difference maker in this one. Caleb Love is very good, and Arizona has very good guard play. I think they can keep up with New Mexico. I think they can win this and move on to the Elite Eight. Looking up here, Houston Duke. I think this is where the Blue Devils' run comes to an end. Houston, just a dominant team this year. Before the Big 12 tournament, they were my pick to win it all. And I don't like that they got blown out in the Big 12 championship game, but I do like that they lost because it gives them some momentum and they don't get too comfortable. I think Houston beats Duke. Filipowski's great, but when you're playing up against this defense, Duke's offense, I think, will struggle. I don't think they'll be quite ready to knock off the Cougars. Kentucky versus Colorado. I think this is where Colorado's run comes to an end. Going with the Wildcats to the Elite Eight. Now, this is a bold prediction for me because I have not liked Kentucky all year, but their path here is just so favorable. When I first saw this, I was like this 4 grouping here, this is just Kentucky's. They can get here. I mean, realistically, I think they could beat Marquette if they get them. I think they could beat Florida for sure. Texas Tech worries me. That's a pretty big matchup, a mismatch. But I think they beat them, and I think they get all the way here. Calipari, all the haters, I think, will quiet down. He gets to the Elite Eight. Now in the Midwest, Purdue Gonzaga. This is one where it really makes me think. Purdue, I've been saying, is different this year. But then again, there's always I feel like there's always a 1 seed that loses in the second round, but there's also always a 1 seed who loses in the Sweet 16. And then there's usually either 1 or 2 1 seeds left for the Final Four. Graham Ike, as much as I think he can match up with Zach Edey, All it takes is one off shooting night for Purdue. Now it doesn't happen as much as it did last year because of the guard play being a lot better. Lance Jones, Braden Smith, Fletcher Lawyer still there. But Gonzaga's very good. They don't turn the ball over. They're coached well. They're going to have a week to prepare for this game. Mark Few over Purdue has been inconsistent all season. I think Gonzaga gets them. I'm going with the Zags to the Elite Eight. And there's a real world where they lose here in the first round. There's a world where they lose here. And beating Purdue's a tough test too. They could lose here too. I'm going with them. I'm trusting them. It's looking like I'm a big West Coast Conference guy. I got St. Mary's Sweet 16. I got Gonzaga Elite 8. But that's just what I think. You can't go all chalk. I think this matchup really favors them. Gonzaga, one of the best offensive teams in the country. They like to push the pace. Purdue, they don't really slow the pace down per se, but they don't speed it up. They're one of the better offensive teams. I feel like Graham Ike can hold his own, and I feel like their guards can force Purdue to make some turnovers. I think Mark Few can coach them up. I think they get it. Creighton, Tennessee. Now this one I'm back and forth on. Dalton Connect, Zakai Ziegler, and all of them. Will they get over the hump? Their coach, not known to make deep runs into March Madness. I feel like they always get to the Sweet 16 and then get bounced. Creighton is one of those teams that tends to always make it far in March Madness, at least in recent memory. I'm going to go ahead and take them. I think Creighton gets it done. Tennessee, 29th in offense, 3rd in defense. They like to push the pace. Dalton Connect, one of the best players, probably the second best player in the country. But Creighton's right behind them. They're 12th in offense. I feel like they can keep up. 24th in defense. That's not bad either. I feel like they can get some stops. Now, scoring on Tennessee's defense will be tough. But when they have so many good offensive weapons, Baylor Shireman, Trey Alexander, Ryan Kalkbrenner, Stephen Ashworth, they can do it. They have the guard play to do it, to hang with Tennessee. They shoot the three. Honestly, I feel like they're underrated. They shoot the three actually very well. Now, Dalton Connect is an issue. But if he just has one off night, man, I'm telling you, they're not going to... I don't know. And coaching-wise, I don't trust them. I'm going with Creighton to the Elite Eight. You got to make some bold predictions. UConn, BYU. As much as I love BYU, I'm a BYU truther, I guess. I picked them to win the Big 12. I have them in the Elite Eight. I'm going with UConn, though, to the Final Four. It's in Boston, this game. Doesn't seem realistic. BYU in the Final Four. Go ahead and take the Huskies. They're just a lot better offensively, much better defensively. They'll slow the game down. They won't be able to BYU won't be able to push the pace. They're not going to turn the ball over. They're coached better. They have experience. They won it all last year. UConn to the Final Four. Michigan State, Arizona. I want to do it, but I can't. Got to go with Arizona. Caleb Love, Omar Ballo have just been such a good duo this tournament, and I feel like they can get it done when it matters most. I just don't see a 9 seed in the Final Four. I know it happened just last year, but I gotta go with Arizona. This region, as said, is the weakest region, and I feel like Arizona has the most realistic path here to the Final Four out of all these teams. So I'm going with Arizona to make the Final Four and set up a very, very interesting matchup here in Arizona against UConn. We'll see what I do in that one. Now looking at this game, Houston, Kentucky. Offense collides with defense. Jamal Shed versus, Reed Shepherd, Rob Dillingham, and Kentucky. In my opinion, they're a little too young. They're a little too one-sided. Typically, these one-sided teams can make it to the Elite Eight. We've seen it. Gonzaga did it last year. They were very offensive heavy, but they don't usually break through to the Final Four. Houston gets it done. They're 17th in offense, first in defense. I'm going with Houston to the Final Four. Gonzaga, Creighton. Elite Eight matchup. Two teams that tend to do well in March Madness. Can the Zags, after having, at one point, people thought they wouldn't even get in that large pit. Now they're a 5 seed in my Elite Eight. What can they do? Can they get there? I don't think so. Creighton is a very good team. I'm telling you. They're not the deepest team. They're not the most flashy team. But they get it done. Just outside the top 10 in offense. Just outside the top 20 in defense. Gonzaga a little too one-sided again. Similar to Kentucky. Not as much, but Graham Ike's great. But I do worry in this matchup. I don't think the guards can keep up with Creighton. I got Creighton in the Final Four. UConn, Arizona. This is a home game for Arizona, essentially. UConn is going to have quite a bit of a travel here, but they're going to have a week to prepare. It's tough because Arizona's essentially a home game, but I gotta go with UConn. They were my number one seed or number one team in my Power 40 for the longest time this season. And I haven't been super high on Arizona. I really like their draw. I like their path. But against UConn, just can't go against them. First in offense, 11th in defense. Doesn't get much better than that. Houston, Creighton. As much as I've been praising Creighton and I think they're good, I gotta go with Houston. The defense for them is legit. You can't say, I mean, with Houston being a 1 seed the past couple of years, the argument's always been, well, who have they played? They're in the American, you know. Houston has won 30 games in the best conference in college basketball. L.J. Cryer, Jamal Shead, Emmanuel Sharp. That is a ridiculous big three. Defensive big three, I will point out. Defense wins championships. You guys know the saying. Both, I mean, it's going to be a good one, but I think Houston gets it done. That sets up a matchup that I think everyone would love to see. UConn versus Houston. This is my national championship game. And I'll tell you right now, when the bracket first came out, I was going UConn. There was a small portion where I had Purdue in my head. I'm not there now. Recently, it's been Houston. This whole today, I've been thinking Houston. I've been thinking, when I record tonight, I'm taking Houston. I went back and forth. Typically, I don't like picking the number 1 overall seed. I did it last year. It didn't work out. UConn, first in offense, 11th in defense. Tristan Newton, Cam Spencer, Caravan, Donovan Clingan, Steven Castle, taking on Jamal Shead, Emmanuel Sharp, L.J. Cryer. The number 1 defense versus the number 1 offense. How is this going to go? I think UConn is your national champion. I'll tell you why. UConn is the only of... Okay, so this whole season I've been saying it was 1A, 1B. UConn, Purdue, right? Those were the two. Then here comes Houston. All of a sudden it's 1A, 1B, 1C. Houston's in the conversation. Those 3 teams have all been the clear-cut best 3 in college basketball, right? And I think one of them will get upset. I think that's Purdue. But ultimately, when it comes down to it, I trust UConn more. I don't see a world where Houston... Well, I could see it, you know. But this is the most legit chance we've had of a back-to-back champion in a while. I think it's time we finally break that curse, I guess you could say. I think UConn gets it done over Houston. I think they're a little bit more deep. They have a little bit better guard play. It is close. I worry Donovan Clingan is a problem. and I trust their coaching a little bit more. I do. Houston's coach is great, but I mean, Kelvin Sampson, amazing coach, no knock on him, but Dan Hurley and the Huskies think they can get it done. Last year they were a 4 seed, Cinderella-esque, you could say. I mean, a 4 seed, not necessarily, but winning it all, I guess you could say, is a Cinderella. But they had a really good path last year, and this year I feel like they're better. I've said it all year. You need to be better the second year. I think UConn is. I think they are, and I think their path is the most favorable. I the fact that they, in my opinion, are in the best region, and I still don't see a world where they get upset. It's got to be UConn. It just has to be. I'm going with UConn. I I tried to talk myself out of it. How many total points? I'm gonna say this game ends 74-70, so I'll go with 144. Yeah. So that's going to do it for the video. Hope you guys enjoyed the March Madness predictions. Really put a lot of effort into this, a lot of research, a lot of time. This video is about an hour long. Apologize for that, but I had a lot to talk about. So, yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, make sure you go down there, leave a like, comment what you think of my predictions. Discord X linked in the description. Join that, follow that, whatever you'd like to do. And I will see you guys possibly tomorrow with an NBA video. We will see. Hope you guys enjoyed this one.